Picture yourself standing in the Argonne forest, autumn of 1918. The air hangs heavy with morning mist and the acrid smell of disturbed earth. Around you, the crack of distant rifle fire punctuates an otherwise eerily silent landscape. In your hands you hold nothing but an entrenching tool, a worn bayonet and perhaps a canvas shelter half, the same implements that millions of soldiers carried across the battlefields of the Great War. Today, we're stepping back into that world to learn how these men turn the most basic tools into instruments of survival, building shelters that could mean the difference between life and death in conditions that would break most modern survivalists. The entrenching tool was more than just a shovel, it was an extension of a soldier's will to survive. British Tommies carried their simple T-handle spades with reverence, knowing that this single piece of steel could dig a fighting position, chop through roots, hammer tent stakes, and even serve as a defensive weapon if necessity demanded. The German folding Klappspaten represented engineering elegance, with its hinged blade that could lock at different angles, transforming from spade to pickaxe in seconds. American doughboys adapted quickly to their own versions, learning through hard experience that the rhythm of digging, short, powerful strokes that conserved energy over hours of work, separated veterans from green recruits. Alongside the E-tool, every soldier carried some form of blade. The French Lebel bayonet, the British Patton 1907, the American M 1917 trench knife. These weren't just weapons, but precision instruments for processing wood, cutting shelter materials, and performing the countless small tasks that made camp life bearable. When forward positions shifted, or units found themselves in contested woodland between trench lines, soldiers couldn't rely on elaborate dugouts. They needed expedient shelters, and they needed them fast. The lean-to became a soldier's castle in these circumstances. A veteran could identify the perfect location by instinct. Slightly elevated ground that wouldn't flood during the incessant rains, positioned with the back to prevailing winds, close enough to water but not so close that morning fog would chill men to the bone. Using his axe with practiced economy of motion, he'd fell a ridgepole from standing deadwood, the rhythmic bite of steel into wood, a sound that meant security in an insecure world. Two forked supports driven deep into the muddy earth would hold this backbone aloft, and then the real work began. Rafters cut to length and leaned at that critical angle, steep enough to shed rain but not so steep that precious materials were wasted. Every movement was deliberate, every cut purposeful, because wasted effort meant wasted warmth, and warmth meant survival. Here's where, a century of accumulated bushcraft knowledge really came into play, passed down through generations and compressed into, brutal necessity. Soldiers from rural backgrounds became invaluable teachers, showing their city-bred comrades how to read the forest for its gifts. Spruce and fir boughs, cut with bayonets honed razor-sharp on belt-stones, would be layered like scales on a fish, each overlapping the one below so that rain ran down and away rather than seeping through. Pine bark, peeled in great sheets from dead trees using the wedge-shaped tip of an E-tool, provided nature's waterproof shingles. The technique was ancient, but the urgency was immediate. Men worked with chapped hands in cold rain, knowing that a dry night's sleep could restore enough strength to face another day. When canvas shelter halves were available, those sections of treated cotton that buttoned together, they became the crowning layer, tied with cordage to the framework, and staked with wooden pegs carved during quiet moments. The shelter wasn't beautiful, but it was functional, and in the Great War, function was all that mattered. Standing here today with these same tools in hand, we touch something deeper than simple technique. We connect with the resourcefulness born from absolute necessity, the kind of clarity that comes when survival isn't theoretical but immediate. These soldiers understood what modern bushcraft practitioners are, relearning, that tools don't need to be complicated to be effective, that knowledge weighs nothing but carries you through everything, and that shelter built with your own hands from materials you gathered yourself provides a security no purchased tent ever could. Their legacy lives in every shelter half still used by military forces worldwide, in every entrenching tool that remains fundamentally unchanged after more than a century, and in the knowledge that humans can adapt, endure, and overcome when armed with skill and determination. If these stories of survival and ingenuity resonate with you, if you believe that the lessons of history remain vital in our modern age of convenience and comfort, then, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Share this with someone who values self-reliance, who understands that true preparedness comes from knowledge rather than equipment. Together, we keep these skills alive for the next generation who might need them.